Yeah. Yes. Good morning all, and welcome to the session.
Hi, good morning.
So here today we are going to talk about or discuss about the speaking, in fact, and the main criteria, fluency and coherence. So before that, we just congratulate our tutors who made their effort to put a lot of results on our board, and we'll just go through that results that we have recently got. And we have a lot of results. I can see that when you got good score. Yes. So before we start the session, I welcome Ma'am Diti Ma'am to the session.
Thank you.
And myself, Aju. And we know that a lot of students struggle with the speaking session, and there are a lot of questions raised by many students. How could they improve their speaking in IELTS, especially in IELTS? It's a little bit different in the sense that we normally converse with people, and we communicate with people in different languages, and English is an international language. So many students find it difficult to speak in English. Now we have some ideas to put forward so that you can improve your speaking. And first of all, we just want to make sure that you know the basic idea or basic structure of IELTS speaking test. Of course, it's a face-to-face exam, in fact, and I think all the candidates know this particular idea that this is a face-to-face exam.
Yes, but some centers are still conducting in video conferencing method. Will they like inform in prior?
I think yes, both these exams do follow the same procedures, and they have the same valuation method too. So there is no difference in that case.
Okay.
And when we consider more about this speaking test, another concern is that whether they should dress neatly, or there is a particular dress code.
Dress code, yes.
And I would say that there is no particular dress code, but you should be comfort in your dress, in fact, because when you wear a dress and you go for the exam, and you are there for almost 15 to 20 minutes there, in fact, and for all that time period you have to be comfortable in your dress. So in that case, you should have to take care of your dress when you go for the exam.
Okay.
Another thing that you should never forget is that you should have your original passport with you. So sometimes students may ask whether they need to carry only a copy of that, but this is the only ID that you are producing in front of the IELTS examiner. So you have to take your passport, original passport, when you go for the exam. In fact, another thing is you should be pleasant always when you go for the exam. The examiner see you, and you give an impression to the examiner that you are looking positive. So you should be pleasant always when you go for the exam.
So should we wear a mask during our exam?
See, it all depends upon the examiner. So they will inform you if you need to wear a mask, in fact. And even if you wear a mask, make sure that it is done in perfect way, because sometimes the mask may become loose when you start speaking. So they make sure that you did it in a perfect way in that case. And another thing that you don't need to bring any pencil or paper for the exam when you go for the speaking test, because these two things will be provided by the examiner when you go
itself.
for the
Okay,
exam.
fine.
Okay. Now you have to take care about the fact that the speaking session is recorded. In fact, your audio is recorded. The examiner most probably welcome you from the doorstep itself, and they will be carrying a recorder in their hand, and the moment onwards they will be recording your speaking. So they wish you and they take care of you, and will ask you to take your seat. So
Yes.
make sure that you are comfortable with the seat, and in between the exam don't try to push the chair into other sides.
Okay.
And make
Why?
yourself, it gives a negative impression to the examiner, because it shows that you are nervous. Sometimes students make some sort of gestures or some
fine.
kind of gestures that makes others look that they feel nervous. So be sure that you don't do anything such like things.
Okay.
Okay then. And the speaking test takes almost 11 to 14 minutes. So whatever it is, you may perform well before the speaking test, you may perform well after the speaking test, but all your score is determined in this particular time period. That means 11 to 14 minutes, the average time for your speaking test. And you have to see that the test is both formal as well as informal in a sense, because you can give any sort of answer that comes to your mind when the question is asked, but it should be related with the question. In fact, of course, I said that you can give any sort of answer, but you have to make sure that you give the answer that is related to the question. But at the same time, it's informal in the sense that even if you don't know the answer, you can say that I don't know the answer, or I'm afraid whether I can give an answer to this question. This is also possible, in fact.
Okay.
In
So
that case,
can you say one example for that informal type of question?
Yes, if a question is asked whether you like to enjoy the swimming as a sport, you can say that, well, I'm afraid because I could give an answer to the question, because there are a lot of sports and I am not interested in swimming, but I like to play badminton. You can say that. Okay. And the speaking test consists of 3 parts: part 1, part 2, and part 3.
Okay. Okay, now we'll move on to the slides.
The first slide deals with the part 1, part 2, part 3, and it gives the general idea about part 1, part 2, and part 3. So that it gives a lot of idea about the introduction and interview in the part 1 session. So they'll be asking you a lot of questions that is really personal, like your name, where you come from, your hometown, or what you do, so and so things. So apart from that, they ask some more questions, and we will go in detail with that. Altogether, it take almost 4 to 5 minutes for your part 1 to complete, almost 4 to 5 minutes. And then we have the part 2, where you have a single question and you need to talk about 1 to 2 minutes, and altogether it takes almost 3 to 4 minutes for the part 2 completion. And when you go to the part 3, you have a two-way discussion. The examiner might be asking some questions related to your answer, in fact, and it takes almost 4 to 5 minutes. So that's the criteria that they follow for the speaking 3 parts: part 1, part 2, and part 3. And in part 1, as I said, there are a lot of questions can be asked, in the sense 7 to 12 questions can be asked in the part 1 session. That includes bags, names. So any sort of topics can be taken in this particular area. Like they can go
Sir,
for,
apart from your name and hometown?
Yes, apart from the name, hometown, and what you do, they can ask these kind of questions.
Okay.
And they take 3 different topics, and each topic they may ask 3 to 4 questions in that case.
Fine.
And it depends on the examiner. So you can expect almost 12 questions, 7 to 12 questions in the part 1 session, and it takes almost the same time that we said just before, 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 minutes for that. And that's the case. Now, we need to think about the fact that there are a lot of things to be remembered in part 1. Okay, in part 1, you cannot give a one-word answer in that case, because any question can be asked in the part 1, as we have seen the topics. Sometimes the topic is bag, and they may be asking, do you like bag? Then you cannot give an answer like, yes, I like bag, and you can stop there. So there's no one-word answer like that. And one more thing, there should not be long answers, in fact. because there is only 5 to 6 minutes for these 12 questions to be asked.
Yes.
So if you go for lengthy answers, the examiner might not get enough time to ask the student or the candidate the remaining questions. So they don't entertain.
So maximum for each question we can say like 2 or 3 sentences, right?
Yes, it's better to talk 2, 3 or 4 sentences according to the way that we answer. Sometimes we may have to explain little bit, and in that case you can move on 3 or 4 sentences is available.
Yes.
First, okay, this is what we have to do in that particular part 1 session.
Yes.
And as I said before, you have to expect almost 7 to 12 questions in this part 1.
Sir, and sometimes in this part 1 they ask questions like whether you are a working person or a student.
Yes.
In such situation, can we say like, okay, we are studying for IELTS? Can we say like that?
I think it's a wrong choice if you say that I am preparing for an IELTS exam. Okay, it's better to avoid that such kind of answers from the candidate part, and you have to say, be genuine in that case always. You can tell what you're doing at that moment, but don't say like I don't work or I don't do anything. So say something different. In fact, you were studying so and so things, or I just completed my studies and I look forward to pursue my higher studies abroad, something like that you can say.
Okay.
Now
we'll move on to the part 2.
And the things that you need to remember regarding part 2. So examiner will give you a task card along with a paper and a pencil, and they give you some instructions in that case, because this is a one-way speaking session, and the examiner may not in the sense they will not ask you anything in between. So they will provide you a question paper and it will be placed in front of you, and the pencil and paper will be provided to you.
So sometimes ആ ഒരു എക്സാമിനർ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഇടുന്ന ആ ഒരു ക്യൂ കാർഡ് we literally know nothing about it, so can we ask to change the cue card?
ഒരിക്കലും നമുക്ക് ആ ഒരു ക്യൂ കാർഡ് ചേഞ്ച് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ഉള്ള ഒരു അവസരമില്ല. നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ക്യൂ കാർഡ് കിട്ടിക്കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് അറിയത്തില്ല, ആ ടോപ്പിക്കിനെ പറ്റി നമുക്ക് അറിയത്തില്ലാത്തൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ആണ് വരുന്നതെങ്കിൽ നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യേണ്ടത് മാക്സിമം അതുമായിട്ട് റിലേറ്റഡ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള ടോപ്പിക്സ് സംസാരിക്കാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക.
So we have to talk something related to that.
Related to the topic.
Can you say one example like that? If
talk about a historical event എന്ന് ചോദിക്കുന്ന ഒരു ചോദ്യത്തിന് നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെ ഒരു ഹിസ്റ്റോറിക്കൽ ഇവന്റിനെ പറ്റി പറയാനായിട്ട് അറിയത്തില്ലാത്തൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ.
Literally I don't know.
അപ്പം അങ്ങനെയാണ് പെട്ടെന്ന് അങ്ങനെ സ്പെസിഫിക് ആയിട്ടൊരു കാര്യം ചോദിക്കുമ്പോൾ ചിലപ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അറിയത്തില്ലാത്തൊരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ വരും. സോ ആ കേസിൽ നമ്മൾ മാക്സിമം ഹിസ്റ്ററി ആയിട്ട് ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ സംസാരിക്കാട്ട് നോക്കാം. ഒരു പക്ഷേ നമ്മൾ അത് സബ്ജക്റ്റായിട്ട് സ്കൂളിൽ പഠിച്ചിട്ടുണ്ടായിരുന്നു എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ പറയാം, അതിൽ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഏറ്റവും ഇഷ്ടപ്പെട്ട കാര്യങ്ങൾ എന്തായിരുന്നു പറയാം, അതുകൊണ്ടുള്ള ഗുണങ്ങൾ എന്തൊക്കെയാണെന്ന് പറയാം. എനിവേ ട്രൈ ടു കണക്ട് ദോസ് പ്രോംപ്റ്റ്. നമുക്കൊരു ക്യൂ കാർഡ് തന്നു കഴിയുമ്പം അതിലൊരു മെയിൻ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഉണ്ടാവും, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ അതിന് പ്രോംപ്റ്റ്സ് ആയിട്ടുള്ള കുറച്ച് കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് കുറച്ച് പോയിന്റ്സ് ഒക്കെ തന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. അപ്പം ആ പോയിന്റ്സിൽ വെച്ചിട്ട് നമ്മൾ ഈ പറയുന്ന ഹിസ്റ്റോറിക്കലായിട്ടുള്ള ഇവന്റിനെ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നമുക്കറിയാവുന്ന കാര്യങ്ങളെ കണക്ട് ചെയ്ത് മാക്സിമം സംസാരിക്കാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക എന്നുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ കാൻഡിഡേറ്റ് ഒരു 2 minutes പ്രിപ്പറേഷൻ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ 2 minutes നേരത്തേക്ക് സംസാരിക്കാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ടുള്ള പ്രിപ്പറേഷനാണ് ഉണ്ടാവുക. സോ ദ എക്സാമിനർ വിൽ ടെൽ യു ദാറ്റ് യു ഹാവ് 1 minute ടു പ്രിപ്പയർ ആൻഡ് യു നീഡ് ടു ടോക്ക് അബൌട്ട് 1 to 2 minutes. സോ ആ 1 minute കൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ സംസാരിക്കേണ്ട കാര്യങ്ങളെ പറ്റിയുള്ള ഒരു ഐഡിയ നമ്മൾ ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക. അപ്പോൾ അത് ഒരു എൻറ്റയർ കാര്യങ്ങൾ നമുക്കതിൽ എഴുതാൻ പറ്റില്ല, കാരണം നമുക്ക് കിട്ടുന്ന ആ ഒരു 1 minute നമുക്ക് ഈ പറയുന്ന തീം ആലോചിച്ചെടുക്കണം, അതുപോലെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവും. സോ നമ്മൾ മെയിൻ പോയിന്റ്സ് മാത്രം ജസ്റ്റ് ആ പേപ്പറിൽ നോട്ട് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക. കാരണം നിങ്ങൾ സംസാരിക്കാൻ തുടങ്ങുമ്പോഴത്തേനും നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ആ പേപ്പർ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് നോക്കി തന്നെ സംസാരിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കുന്നതാണ്. അപ്പോൾ അതുകൊണ്ട് ആ പേപ്പറിൽ മെയിനായിട്ടുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ മാത്രം എഴുതി പോകാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക. തന്നെയല്ല ഇതൊരു മെമ്മറി ടെസ്റ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു ചോദ്യമല്ല. അതുകൊണ്ട് തന്നെ നിങ്ങളൊരു കാര്യം പഠിച്ചുകൊണ്ട് പോകുന്ന ഒരു സിറ്റുവേഷൻ, അതായത് നമ്മൾ റോട്ട് ലൈൻ ചെയ്ത് പോകുന്ന സിറ്റുവേഷൻ ഒഴിവാക്കാനായിട്ട് ശ്രമിക്കുക. കാരണം നമ്മൾ അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്ത് കഴിയുമ്പോഴത്തേനും അവിടെ ചെല്ലുമ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ ഏതെങ്കിലും ഒരു വേർഡ് മിസ്സാക്കി കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമുക്ക് പിന്നെ അത് കണ്ടിന്യൂ ചെയ്ത് പോകാനുള്ള ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുണ്ടാകും. അതിനെ റീപ്ലേസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ടുള്ളൊരു വേർഡ് നമുക്ക് കിട്ടില്ല. സോ നമുക്ക് വേണ്ടത് ഒരു ഐഡിയ ആണ്, നമുക്ക് എന്തിനെപ്പറ്റിയാണ് നമ്മൾ സംസാരിക്കാൻ പോകുന്നത് എന്നുള്ളൊരു ഐഡിയ നിങ്ങൾക്ക് ഉണ്ടാവണം. ബാക്കി നിങ്ങൾ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്തെടുക്കുക എന്നുള്ളൊരു കാര്യമാണ്. സോ 1 to 2 minutes എന്നുള്ളൊരു ടൈം ആണ് അവർ പറയുക. ഒരു ടൈം ഫ്രെയിമിൽ നിന്നുകൊണ്ട് നിങ്ങൾ സംസാരിക്കുക എന്നുള്ള കാര്യമാണ് അവർ പറയുക. സോ ആ ഒരു കാര്യത്തിൽ നിങ്ങൾ തന്നിരിക്കുന്ന ആ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്താണ് അല്ലെങ്കിൽ
will they stop in between, or we have to talk continuously for 2 minutes?
So it is said that you need to talk about 1 to 2 minutes. That's the instruction given by the examiner. So that means even if you talk 1 minute, it's fine, but it's better to talk for 2 minutes because they need samples of your speaking if they need to put some score for that, right? So you have to keep on speaking, and it's better until the examiner asks you to stop. You can stop when the examiner asks you to stop. stop because they won't allow you to speak more than 2 minutes
More than
in
2
any
minutes.
case, because they have to ask the other questions also.
But if okay, Anil, if sometimes if we get stuck, will we our score up and nammal avaru korikku avaru?
See, there's less possibility of getting the scores reduced by the examiner.
Okay.
But we need to make sure that we complete this 1 to 2 minutes.
Okay.
And we complete all the prompts given in the question also.
Yes.
But
So
as
till
I said,
he or she stops you, you have to talk.
yes, that's the better idea. So that
Okay.
you give a more good impression to the examiner,
Yes.
in fact. And sometimes students may say that the examiner was not looking at them, or they were
Yeah.
doing some other activities in between. And I say that don't worry about that, in
Okay.
fact, because you are given a task and you have to complete that's the task given to you. So since you have a task with you, just complete that according to
Okay.
your wish, and let the examiner do what they like. And
Okay.
it doesn't seem that they are not focusing on you, but they have a clear focus on your
Yes.
speaking there. And try to use some discourse markers when you speak. That means you can use
Connecting words, right?
Yes, connecting words, in
Yes.
fact. Well, to be frank, to be honest.
Yeah.
And when you go for the counter statements, however, nevertheless, but. So use these kind of words
Well,
in between.
okay.
Well, yes, that's it. Okay, so in many cases we may use these kind of things, and try to use daily these kind of things, so that it makes you more comfortable when you speak. And that's the situation. So this is all about part 2 in
Yes.
IELTS speaking.
Okay.
Now we move on to part 3.
Part 3.
And you know that this takes almost 5 to 6 minutes in the speaking session of IELTS. And this part 3 is a little bit different from part 1 and part 2, in the sense that you don't have any restrictions in your speaking, because when you talk about the part 1, we said that you have to restrict your sentences, or you're speaking to 2, 3 or 4 sentences. But here we don't have any restrictions.
Any
in
such
fact.
restrictions?
And most probably the
Sir, in
questions,
part 3, will they ask questions related to your cue card, or will it be general questions?
Most probably the questions will be related to your cue card,
Okay.
Your cue card questions, and it may relate to the topic that you have talked in the speaking
Okay.
session of part
Yeah.
2. And it can also be related to the answer that you give to the examiner.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so what you have to do is you have to take the examiner to such a level where you are comfortable in speaking. So some topics you may be really comfortable, some topics, or you may feel so relaxed when you talk about some field, or for some sectors.
Yes.
And when you have an opportunity to take the topic to such a sector, move on to that, so that the
Okay.
examiner might ask more questions related to that. And
Okay.
you feel so relaxed because you know what you are going to say next. You don't need to think about a new answer or something that you don't know, in fact. So try to develop such answers in that
Sir,
case.
should we say like examples in part 3?
Yes, we have to add examples in part 3, because you have to make the answers lengthy. So
fine.
it's necessary we need to add some examples to our
Okay.
ideas. In part 1, of course, we can give examples, but it's like, one word, or like Taj Mahal. So
Yes.
this is the example that we give in part 1. But here we can give an example that this happened in this particular area, and recently this news was published.
Okay.
So and so things. And I remember one more thing that I have to say. Many students do have that concern, whether they have that opportunity to ask the examiner whether they
Yes,
could.
if they don't understand any question,
Yes.
can we ask the examiner to repeat?
Yes, of course. Because in part 1, if you have a doubt with that question, you have to specify that particular word and ask the examiner, so could you please tell me what you mean by this,
Okay.
or could you please paraphrase that particular word for me, in fact.
Okay.
And in part 3, you have that opportunity to ask the examiner to paraphrase the question fully, in fact.
Okay.
Because most probably the questions asked in the part 3 is not scripted, in fact.
Oh,
In part 1 and part 2, you have the scripted questions. The examiner do have that question paper in their
Yes.
hand, and they follow the same questions.
Yeah.
But in part 3, as we said, that it depends upon the topic that we have discussed and the answers that we have discussed. The examiner might ask you some questions related to that.
So sometimes it may be little confusing, right?
Confusing. In that case, the
they
examiner
can
may
ask.
develop a question by themselves in that
Yes,
case. So
okay.
that time it may not be able for some candidates to understand what the question is all
Okay.
about in that case. And when you give the examples in part 3, try to avoid it from your personal example, unless it
fine.
is asked from your experience.
Okay.
Sometimes the question asks you, and
Yes.
what we see in even in the task 2 of writing, you can say
Okay.
that you. So when there is an opinion asked from your side, you have to give your opinion.
Yes.
But if it is not asking for your opinion, then you have to generalize the idea there.
Okay.
Else in part 1 and part 2, you can see that all the questions are related to yourself. Right?
Okay.
You can give from your own experience, and you can use the examples from your side and your own experience.
Yep.
Okay, so this is the situation for part 1, part 2 and part 3.
Part 3. Yes, thank you, sir.
Now we move on to the
Band
speaking band
descriptors.
descriptors.
Okay.
And these are the 4 band descriptors that you know: fluency and coherence, which we are going to discuss in detail after this slide, and the lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy, and the pronunciation.
Yes.
Now
So
we have
now
a close
we'll
look.
look into
Yes,
the
we have
fluency
a
and
close look at,
coherence in detail.
Band descriptors and descriptions regarding the fluency and coherence, how the score is given to the candidate in this particular criteria.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the band 5 score. In that case, you can see it maintains the speaker, the candidate maintains a flow in the speaking, and but it's a slow speech. It takes much time for them to continue the next word or the sentences, and they may repeat the words or sentences or the ideas that they have given. And the self-correction is one main mistake that many candidates make during their speaking. So you can see that self-correction takes your score to 5 band in fact. And they don't use the complex ideas, or it loses that idea flow during expressions. Fine. Now we move on to 6
And
band.
repetition of words is also not
Allowed in
advisable,
this,
no?
Yes. If you repeat the words, that means you are lacking the lexic. I mean, you have no other words to say that, and you are really confused with that. So
Yes.
it definitely hunts your fluency in that case.
Okay.
And the 6 band scores, you have to speak at length in that case, and loss of coherence. So you have to be coherent with your answers. You have to link the ideas that you speak. So there should be a connection between the sentences. Fine. And occasional self-correction. Of course, self-correction is also a part there in that case, but it's occasional in the case, and repetition is there in that case. Attempts to use discourse markers and connectives. So even if you attempt to use these kind of things, you know,
Yes,
may not be
still you
perfect.
will get
Yes,
6.
you get 6 bands. So it doesn't mean that it should be perfect in all cases. But
Okay.
if you make an attempt to do these kind of things, then you get the score 6 band there for
Okay.
that. And now the 7 band. Okay. And now see the difference between the 5, 6 bands and the 7 band. You can see that speakers at length without loss and coherence. So the loss and coherence, without loss of words or sentences and making the coherence right, you are getting a 7 band there. And some repetitions and hesitations due to language, and see, you can see that some repetitions.
Yes.
In the other cases, you can see that a lot of repetitions and self-correction are there. Now here there is a hesitation, but still it's able to manage that in that
Yes.
case. And the use of connectives and discourse markers flexibly, and at the right time they use these kind of things. For those people who get the 7 band.
Yes.
And now we move on to the next slide, which shows the 8 band and 9 band. So why I am saying this is because majority of the students doesn't know these kind of things. They just go for the speaking, and they don't even take care about these kind of things that should be maintained in their speaking. Because if you need to improve your speaking, definitely you have to follow these kind of things and make sure that these ideas or these criteria are there in your speaking to get your desired score in speaking. Now we go for the 8 band. Speaks fluently with only occasional repetition or self-correction. Hesitation is usually content-related and only rarely to search for language. Develops topics coherently and appropriately. This is what we can see in the 8 band. And for 9 band, you need to speak fluently with only rare repetition or self-correction.
So
And,
for a good band in speaking, actually we have to take care of the repetition of words,
yes,
self-correction, and you have to
Self-correction.
talk in length.
And there should be coherence in your speaking.
yes,
So these are the main things that you have to understand when you speak. Make sure that these kind of things are there in your speaking. So this is what we know all about the band descriptions. Now we move on to the main topic that we are going to discuss today is fluency and coherence. In that we are going to deal the fluency right now. So fluency. So how do we define fluency? In fact, the ability to speak or write a language easily, well, and quickly. This is what fluency is all about. The ability to speak
Yes.
or write a language easily, well, and quickly. And it should be easy when you do these kind of things. When you speak the language, you should feel that easiness. Others should feel that easiness, that you are not making any lot of stress, you are not taking a lot of...
we are making any struggle in
speaking or producing next word or finding the ideas.
Yes.
It should have a flow, so it should be easily conveyable in that case. And it should be that means you should be organized things in a better manner. So when you speak something, it should be related to the topic that you are talking about. So you should have a better idea about what you're speaking in that case. And it should be quickly. That means there should not be a delay in your speaking, and it should not be too fast when you speak in that case, because sometimes some people may believe that speaking quickly means having a great pace. No, it means that there is no delay in your speaking. In fact, that's the case. So that's all about fluency. Now we move on to the next part, coherence. Okay, now what do you mean by coherence? I think 2 weeks before we had a class regarding coherent and coherence taken by Sebastian sir and Amal sir.
For writing, I think.
For writing, yes. And I think you might be remembering that thing, and most probably the same thing we have here as the definition: the quality of being logical and consistent. So how logical your answer is.
That means we should have a structure in whatever we are saying or writing, right?
Yes, your ideas should be connected. That's what we are talking about from the beginning itself. Your ideas should be connected. Your sentences should have a relationship between each other, and it should be consistent. And whatever you say there, it should be logically acceptable in the case. And now we move on to the next thing, that how this could be improved. In that case, we need to know what are the challenges faced by the students in many cases. Yes. So one of the main factors is that they don't use the language daily, or they don't practice on a regular basis. In fact, see, what we have to and what we suggest is that if you need to improve in some part, you need to have a practice on that particular session. Because if you need to improve your speaking session, you have to find some time for speaking. So you have to
so we have to talk to our friends, family members in class.
Yes, you have that lot of options. So you have to talk to your friends, family members. Anything can be done in that case. So you have to make sure that you speak regularly or use the language regularly, so that you can improve your speaking.
So we have to talk in English whenever we get a chance to talk with others.
Yes, that's it. And try to avoid unnatural way of speaking. Sometimes some students believe that if they follow a particular accent in their speaking, they can get good score, and they need to speak exactly as the native speaker. I think it's a false belief, in fact, because even if you speak in your native language in the same accent, it's fine, because they are just trying to understand whether you are able to handle the language, or whether you are able to speak fluently, and whether you are able to convey the idea that you have in your mind. So this is what the examiner is looking for. Okay, so don't worry about the accent of the language, and try to avoid the repetition of words. So you repeat words similarly, as we have seen that repetition also
will affect our band score.
So we have seen that band scores, and we have seen the repetition of words is a must criteria that you have to avoid. In fact, you have to avoid the repetition of words, and try to avoid the memorized words too. So when you have the memorized words, what happens, you don't know when to use this or where to use this. And we have that particular word, and we just insert that. And maybe what happens, the context may be different with regard to that word. And in that case, what happens, it doesn't have a relationship with the context that we are talking about. And
that word may not fit in that sentence. It won't be
suitable in that sentence. So that is another problem. So these are the challenging things that are faced by the candidates in many cases. Now, how to improve fluency and coherence?
That's the main questions most of the students ask
now
these days.
How can we improve this fluency and coherence? To be frank, this can be done only if you have the confidence, and if you have that ability to generate ideas in the case. If you have that ability to generate ideas, and you have to express that, and for that you need your confidence in that case. So how to generate ideas? That's the major question that we ask. Okay, so many students they find difficulty in generating ideas, because when they listen to the question, of course they understand the question well, but they don't know what to say about the particular question. As I said before, anything that you say is valid in IELTS speaking test. because they're not asking for your knowledge. In fact, they are
there is no right or wrong answers in this IELTS.
Speaking test.
So
whatever
whatever
you,
you
that is
talk, you
valid.
can, yes.
But you should relate with the
Relate it
topic.
to the
in
topic.
fact. So you should have a proper idea about what you are going to speak. So
Okay.
in that case, how could we find the ideas, or how could we generate ideas? In fact, so we can see that adding the questions who, where, why, when, how, or how much, or how many, or even what, or which to the question. If you ask the question, you get an idea from these particular questions. Okay, when a question is asked to you, you may ask these questions to the same question in your mind, and you generate the ideas. Now you get some points. Now you start speaking with that particular idea. This is what you have to do. So we will go in detail with that. So in part 1, how can we improve this particular idea generation? How can we generate idea in part 1? Now we have an example here. The question, do you like swimming? In fact, yes, I love swimming. This is a 5-band speaking.
Yes.
Why? Because you gave an answer. Of course, you gave an answer to the question asked, do you like swimming? Yes, I love swimming. You said the answer. But is there anything that you said by yourself? In fact,
No.
you took many things from the question and you just gave the answer yes there. So this is what we said, that we don't have a one-word answer there. We should
Answers
not follow
in
the
part
one-word
one.
answer in part 1.
Yes.
And if you say so, you get the 5-band. Now you move on to the 7-band or 8-band answer. See the difference. Yes, I love swimming because it's so relaxing and it helps me to be in shape. So we are giving an idea. Yes, I give the idea. I like the swimming. I love swimming. And now we are giving a reason to that particular fact why I like swimming, because it gives some sort of relaxation to me, and it puts me into a good shape. In fact, yes. So we are giving two ideas, sub ideas to that. So we have given the answer to the question and we have given a reason. So
yes.
that means whenever you have an answer,
you have to expand your answers with reasons.
And
yes.
these things or these answers will wind up in 2-3 sentences. So this is what we said in the beginning. You have a short answers in the part 1 session. This is how you need to answer. Just go for the answer to the question, and now you have to give the reasons for the answer that you gave. So this is how you generate ideas in part 1. So we move on to the next one.
So suppose if you are saying no for this, how will it be?
As I said before, no, I'm not at all interested in swimming, but I play badminton, which is my
fine.
favorite game or sport,
Okay.
you can say.
So now we'll move on to the part
We
2.
on to part 2 and how we can generate the ideas. Okay. So the first method that we suggest is the spider diagram, where you have the question. Consider the question this: describe a film you watched. You should say
When and where you watched it, what was the movie and why you chose to watch it, and how you felt about it.
Okay, so if this is a question asked to you in part 2 speaking, so normally what you do, that's the question. Okay, so we need to generate ideas within that
Yes.
1 minute, and we should have a proper calculation how long we can talk with this subject, and the points that we have gained in that
Yes.
case. And now we consider it into a spider diagram. So we have the topic. That means a film, that you have to talk about a film that you watched, right? Now here the film name is Titanic, in fact, and we have put it in the center, and now we start to draw some lines, and we try to point out the main points there. So the question when and where you watched it. Now we have a year called 1998. The year is described as 1998, and where you watched it, in cinemas with friends, and you can add any name of
And
the
with
theater
whom
or
I
the
watched,
cinemas.
so I have added with my friends.
Friends, in fact. And next, regarding what was the movie about, it was a tragic love story, in fact, and who was the actors,
main actor and
you can
actress.
include the names in that, and it's based on a true story, additional information regarding that, and the main content in that particular movie, and
then why you selected
why you
to
select
watch
that
this
movie and the case. So you have all the major points regarding with this particular movie. So when you select a particular movie, make sure that you take the movie that you know much, or the things that you much better. So try to arrange these ideas in a particular order. Now you keep thinking about these kind of things in 1 minute, and when the examiner asks you to start, you can start your speaking. So this is how you manage how to speak or how to generate the ideas in part 2. And we have another method too, that we can see the cross method. Instead of the spiral diagram, you can go for the cross method, where you find the answers for each questions in the prompts given in the prompts, where you can add the names like this, and then for what you can write like unsinkable biggest ship, so on so things. The main points will be written in like this way, and now you have the idea what to say or when to say, and now you keep going with these things, and when the examiner asks you to start, you can start your speaking. And most probably you may go straight away with the speaking or the topic that you have, or else you can give an introduction that, like, if the question is asked about watch movies or your favorite movie, then you can say that there are a lot of movies that I like in my life.
Suppose ഈ ഒരു 2 മിനിറ്റിൽ we were not able to complete all these 4 sub questions, so will they reduce marks for that?
Sure, because the candidate have to cover all the prompts given in the question. That's the must, because sometimes you can see that the examiner points towards the remaining point, because they know that the candidate is running out of time and they don't have much time to speak, so they may point out that particular prompt and they ask the examiner, the candidate to speak, because in this session the examiner don't have the right to speak to the candidate in any case, because it's all recorded and it's under the rules, so they don't have the permission to speak to the candidate. So for that, if they point out to you that there is something missing, then you can talk about that. So it's must that you go through all the prompts given in the question in that case. And here is a model answer for this particular question, because we have already arranged the main points, and according to that point we can just generate some sentences. According to the main points we can elaborate the sentences. So I have watched a lot of movies in my life, and here I would like to talk about the movie The Titanic. So now you have the introduction, you have given the introduction, and you have given the name of the movie that you have watched. Now according to the points that you have written, now you have to elaborate what it is. And I watched this in 1998 with my friends in Abhilash Theatre or cinemas, and then you keep on speaking, and this takes almost 1 to 2 minutes for you to speak, and this is quite enough for generating ideas, in fact. And I think this is an easiest way of generating ideas. So this is what happens in part 2, and we move on to part 3. As we said, that part 3 is really a discussion part, where the examiner and the candidate discuss a few topics.
Follow-up questions.
Follow-up questions. So follow-up questions in the sense that the questions most probably will be related to the cue card topic. So here are some different questions available. Comparison questions can be asked in the part 3 session. So do you think films have changed since you were a child? How? And you have said that yes, absolutely. Thanks to technological development, industrialization and modernization. So you are giving that idea that yes, you agree to that, because it's asking for your opinion. Do you think films have changed since you were a child? And you are saying that yes, absolutely, I agree with that. And thanks to, you are saying that this is the main reason, these are the main reasons for that. And now you say what are the changes that you feel, because you need to compare the situation in the present and in the past. So you need to compare the present situation and the past situation and how this happens. So these are the 7-band answer for this particular question asked. If asked, you can give this kind of things. You can use the science fiction, different types of variety of movies, like category of movies like science fiction, horror, romantic movies, 3D cartoons and so on. So this is how you need to answer.
A comparison question, like we have to compare the past and present, and you have to expand your answers in like 5 or 6 sentences, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And so if you can keep on speaking on that particular topic, do that. I would say that, because you are killing the time there. So as you know that there are 5 to 6 minutes and you have 6 to 7 questions. So if you go for lengthy answers, you will get only some questions to answer, and you are showing your speaking ability in that case too. And we have another example, that this is opinions, suggestion and comments.
Comment-like questions.
Yes. This is a question. Why do you think documentary films are not so popular, in fact? So why do you think these are not so popular? You can keep your own view in that case. So when these kind of questions arrive, many students find it difficult, because they don't know anything about this kind of documentary films. But you have to find some idea what you know about this. Use your knowledge in that case, what do you know about documentary films? Why people say that this is not good, or why there are don't much people to watch these kind of movies? So it might be boring in that case, right? So you can add these kind of points to your answer and just elaborate why it become boring then. So nowadays people of different age groups like different types of movies, and in that case documentary films are really related to some social activities, so which may not be an entertaining fact for many people in that case. So just keep developing these kind of ideas and make it into a big sentences and lengthy answers.
So here what they have done is they have stated more than one opinion and described
it.
Yeah.
So this is an opinion and you have suggested something in that case. So why it is happening, and what are the reasons behind it. So now the filmmakers are trying to make some changes in the making of their film or documentaries.
Okay.
Now the question is how to gain confidence. So we were talking about the fact that how to develop ideas in fact, and now we move on to the topic how to gain confidence. So there are a lot of ways in fact to gain confidence. So you have to prepare an environment. That means you have to create an environment that suits you, because if you need to improve in your speaking, you have to make some arrangements, in the sense that when you look at your room, or when you are in your room, you have to see a lot of things that is related to English. Maybe a newspaper cutting, or maybe the song, or maybe the movies, or maybe the podcast,
English
books. So try to make such an environment where you feel more comfortable, and this is what you have to do as one thing to gain confidence in fact. And you have to start new habits. If you don't have a reading habit, you have to start the reading habit.
Start one, or if you don't have the habit of listening to music, you can then listen to English music.
So start new habits to improve your language or to gain the confidence you get. And be patient, because I think that's an important fact, because many students want
all students
all of a sudden,
may not have the same caliber. Some may take more time.
Okay, for some students it may take more time, so you have to wait until your turn, because you have to put more effort and you have to wait until the change happens. So you have to be patient when you practice these kind of things, and then believe in yourself.
Should have a trust in ourselves. Then only we'll be able to reach our goal.
So many students in the beginning itself, they say that I don't think that this easy for me to get
it's very
7
difficult,
band or 8 band. It's difficult because I studied in this particular syllabus, and I don't know the language, how to do this, and many people don't get these kind of things. So these kind of negative ideas may come to the mind, but if you think so, definitely it will be a great task. But
first have trust in yourself, and then automatically everything will be improved.
Now learn the art of describing. Speaking is all about describing. You have to describe something. So try to learn the art of describing. If you have a pencil, if you have a pen with you, try to elaborate what it is. Its color, the shape, and with the brand of the pen or pencil that you have, and how it works. Is there any special feature for that particular pen or pencil? So these kind of things you have to identify, and this is how you generate the idea. So this gives you a lot of confidence, because even when you go for the exam, if you have a topic and if you don't know anything, so you now try to understand these are the features that I have to add to this particular topic, and you will get it easily.
So we have to say something related to the topic, and we have to try to expand it according to the knowledge we have. Right.
And another thing I have to say is lie. Lie in the sense if it is recurred in case, because it doesn't mean that you have to give genuine answers for all the questions asked in the IELTS exam. If you say yes, there should be a reason. If you say no, there should be a reason. That's it. So for example, if you're asked do you like advertisements, you can say that yes, and you have to give a reason for that. If you say that no, yes, then you have to give a reason for that. But there should be a reason in your answer.
For each and every answer that you say in IELTS.
There should be a reason in that case. And change your current routine if it is necessary. because as I said before, you need to create an environment by yourself that makes you more comfortable. So in that case, you may have to change your current routine, because you may have to spend more time for this. You know that you have for almost 24 hours a day, and you have 24 hours a day, not almost, in fact, I would say. And how many hours you go for sleep, and the remaining hours how you spend. And remember that how long you spend, or how much time do you spend in a day for your speaking practice. And that's a crucial question, because you have to spend more time if you think that you find difficulty in speaking. Fine. So
now we'll move on with the next slide.
What you can do then, try to speak in English to your friends and family, as we have already discussed that. Try to use
at home,
that, yes,
at traveling, at classes.
Yes, at classes. And whenever you get an opportunity, you try to speak in English. So many people fear that whether they make a good comment or whether they make a good sentence over there. First of all, you have to try that. Try it first. Then everything will be done there. Okay, so first make a try in speaking. So don't worry about the mixes that you make, rather you go for that confidence, to gain that confidence. So I can do this. So this is what you have to think in your mind, and try to find the errors or mistakes when you speak, and try to make the changes. And next time when you go for speaking, make sure that you have overcome some mistakes that you have made recently. Fine.
Yes.
And you can also practice the speaking in front of the mirror. By standing in front of the mirror, you can talk, and you can see how your body language moves, and that's an interesting thing, you know, because
and here you can see your facial expressions as well. So
yes, and you can see the gestures that you make, and how your body language moves, and that's an interesting thing. Okay, now as we said, listen to English songs if you are interested in. So move on to that interesting part, whether if you have that interest in music, so listen to English songs first. Firstly, you don't understand, it's fine, because you know, it's for the first time. But when you practice it for a long time, you now try to get some idea regarding the lyrics of that particular song, and that's the time when you realize that you are there to understand things. Fine. Now read English books. So we have to read English books if it is possible.
And you can watch English,
English
films as
too.
well.
Yes, movies as well. But you should make sure that you understand something from that particular activities that you do, because you have to utilize this in the next thing when you go for the speaking also. And try to record your voice. This is another method that can be implemented.
Yes,
just
and you
ask a question.
you yourself can hear your voice. How will it be?
Yes.
Like,
and you ask yourself the question, and if the same question is asked by the examiner, how would I answer? And you just record the voice and just give the answer. Now you just listen to the recorded voice, and make sure that you are satisfied with the answer that you are given to the question, or else make the changes and then try again, and now see the difference from the first to the last, that answer that you have given. Now try to utilize the classroom and try to imitate some people. You know, we have seen a lot of people who speaks fluently or speak very well, and try to imitate them in a case, because if you try to imitate them, you will get some idea how this is done, or this is okay, this is possible for me too. So these kind of things you have to practice in order to improve your confidence level. Now we move on to the speaking tips more related to the same things. You should be willing to talk, because if you are reluctant in speaking, then nobody can help you. When you get an opportunity, come forward and speak. So in the classrooms, you will get an opportunity for public speaking and all. So try to be a volunteer in that case. So utilize the opportunities. Be willing to talk in that case. And when you talk, try to be on topic. Stay on topic. Okay.
Should not we have to avoid, should not be deviated from the topic. It has to be related to the topic.
Yes, it should be related to the topic in fact, and you have to maintain an eye contact with the examiner. As I said before, maybe the examiner may not be looking at you, but still you should focus on the examiner, and you should maintain an eye contact with the examiner. And the body language, as I said before, it is very important, because you should have a good body language. You should make sure that you are confident, and you should give the examiner the impression that you are confident in that case in your speaking session.
Yes.
And you speak louder, in fact. you have to speak louder. Sometimes it helps you because it helps you to concentrate on the topic what you are speaking.
To show that you're confident in what you're saying, so you have to be loud enough.
Yes, that's it. I think these are the main things that we need to focus on, and I think this session has helped you to how to improve your fluency and coherence, and the methods that we have suggested most probably will help you, and try to focus on that. And thank you for this particular session. Thank you.
Thank you.